So I presented on Seeing Through the Vapor, a presentation on vaping. So my health campaign was on the dangers of vaping. It's a rapidly growing problem in society, and until recently there was no regulation on the industry. What many people don't know is that vaping can be just as or more dangerous than smoking a regular paper cigarette. So I presented to the youth of the Sugar City First Ward, and this is an example of the poster that I put up in the young women's room, just to kind of get them excited about the event and to hear the presentation. So these are just a couple of pictures of how my presentation went. As you can see, I used a slideshow, and I just talked to them about what vaping is and the dangers of it and how it's against the word of wisdom, even though there's not necessarily nicotine in it. There can be, but there's not. How the industry was completely unregulated, so you don't even know what you're vaping in the juices, because until recently there was no regulation on it. So I started off my presentation by telling them a story about, in our area, there was actually somebody had left their vape pen in the toilet paper holder in a seminary building, and it actually burst and caught fire and set off the fire alarms. And so I said, it is a real thing. It does happen in our area. And so I think this kind of grabbed their attention to let them know that this is something that is a problem. And I explained how vaping can lead to lots of problems, such as, and one of the main ones was like how it can hurt your lung capacity, because your lungs are not meant to inhale things such as the vapor. Your lung just can't handle that much moisture. So it can lead to pneumonia and popcorn lung and things like that. And the other thing that I talked about, and this was my handout, was that the flavoring that's found in all the vaping juices is not meant to be inhaled. Your lungs cannot handle that. It's meant to be digested and ingested, not inhaled. And so when you inhale some of those flavorings, depending on what's used in it, it can actually lead to things that like popcorn lung, which is an irreversible lung condition that can actually kill you. So this was my handout, choose the flavor that doesn't kill, and as you can see, there's the different flavors underneath the Skittles packet. And with this handout, I hoped to just kind of put that in the back of their mind, so next time they see Skittles or something, they might kind of think about that a little bit. So this is an activity that we did. I got some volunteers, and I had 3 cups of water that had the exact same amount of water in them. And then I had 3 different straws. I had a coffee straw, a regular size straw, and then like a Friel straw, those milkshakes that you can get at Maverick, those big jumbo straws. And I had each of them pick a straw, and then I timed them, and I said, okay, I want you guys to all start drinking this water at the same time, and let's see how long it takes you. And as you can imagine, the person with the Friel jumbo straw finished first, and then the person with the coffee straw, it took them a lot longer. And I said, this is kind of the effect that vaping can have on your lungs. It can slowly diminish your lung capacity to where you don't, you can't breathe in as much, and so you have to exert a lot more effort. And so I think this was a good way of showing to them. It was a really good visual, and they had fun with it. So this is the write-up from the head person, and just to whom it may concern, my name is Sally Luthi, and I am the Young Women's President in the Sugar First Ward. We had the privilege of having Jenica Stewart share her health campaign about the dangers of vaping with us. About 2 weeks before she presented, she gave me a poster to hang in the Young Women's Room, letting the youth know about the event. She presented it to the youth in the Sugar City First Ward. At first, she was only going to present to the young women, but when the bishop heard about it, he wanted the young men to hear the message as well. She did a very good job presenting the information. She had a great visual and included the youth in an engaging manner. She had the youth breathe the drink through different size straws to show how your lung capacity can be diminished due to vaping. It was very powerful. She also told of the dangers of the flavoring within the vaping juice. Her handout was a package of Skittles with the saying, "Choose the flavor that doesn't kill," written on it. I think the youth enjoyed it. I had several people come to me after the presentation was over saying how good it was. They didn't know that vaping was such a growing problem in our area or how dangerous it actually is. We would like to thank her for her great presentation. Sally Luthi, Young Women's President. So that was always nice to hear. It's always nice to hear when you do a good job. So some strengths and weaknesses of my campaign. I think the strengths were the activity for sure. I think that's something that the youth will remember. And I had really good audience participation. When I would ask questions or things like that, they were quick to answer, and they were just engaged in the presentation. And I really think the handout was a strength, because who doesn't love candy, right? And next time they have it, hopefully they'll think about it. And I think the topic was a strength, just in the fact that it is a growing problem, especially among high school age students. And then the personal story of the vaping pen that caught fire in the seminary building, I think that kind of brought it into perspective that this is a real problem in our area, and it really does happen. It's not just something that happens other places or things like that. I think some of the weaknesses that I had were a small sample of the target population, because this happened during the summertime. Ideally, it would have been nice to present to like a high school gymnasium or something like that, where you have a lot bigger audience, so you can get the message out there more. And the other thing, presenting alone, because I wasn't near any of the people in my group, I had to present alone, which is okay, but I think sometimes when you get different people, they can present things in different ways and make a bigger impact. So I believe that this was a successful presentation because of how big of an issue vaping is for the youth today. They are aware that it is around them, and now they know the dangers associated with it. It is not as harmless as it looks, and I also think they will remember this presentation whenever they have Skittles. It will make them think of the flavoring, saying choose the flavor that doesn't kill. And also, after I finished my presentation, one of the youth leaders stood up and just said, hey, I know a lot of people that at my work that they chose to do vaping versus smoking and try to help them quit. And he goes, and I thought it was a nice, safe alternative, but it's not. And he's like, now I can see how addictive and destructive it is. As she presented, I saw some of these behaviors and things in the people I know that vape, and so it's not worth it. And I think sometimes hearing those things from youth leaders that they look up to is really helpful. So that was my presentation, and overall I think it was a great success.